So hi guys, we would be starting with MATLAB. MATLAB is a bit similar to coding, but the way it's different from coding is it's extensively using the matrices and the arrays. So if you are analyzing the code, if you are thinking that how the data make it processed, then you might have to think in two dimensions because it consists of matrices. That is the major difficulty that lies there. And if you get the basics right, then it would be easy. So the main thing, it's actually a very great tool, MATLAB. It's used in signals and system, Fourier series analysis, signal processing, and various other things. But you would be able to use MATLAB well if you are able to visualize those things. You have to think that how the things are happening. That is the main requirement for learning MATLAB. So let's get started. First of all, I will introduce you to the basic things, the command window. This actually most of the operations are done here in the command window, and the variables that are declared in the command window, the info of the variables that are declared in the command window is stored here in workspace. This is the current folder. So we'll get starting with defining a variable. How we define a variable in MATLAB is very easy and similar to C. So we would start by writing a comment. A comment actually has no role in any of the processing of the code. It's actually there for your convenience that you are able to understand the code well. So if you need, you can have a comment in the code defining a variable. Okay, it's as simple as you have done in C. Just we are defining, let's say, a variable A. We have assigned a value 5 to it. A will get 5 value, and you see that I have said earlier that the workspace actually stores that info about all the variables that are declared in the command window. See, it was given a value 5 and that will get stored in workspace. Similarly, if I say b is equal to 4, then b is equal to 4, it will get stored in the workspace. And one thing that you must have noticed that e is equal to 5. I have defined here, and this is actually an echo of this. So we can suppress this echo. We have defined b is equal to 4. This is again the echo of this. So we can suppress this echo by using semicolon. If I simply assign a value s is equal to 2 and put a semicolon after it, then the echo would be suppressed. It would not affect storage of the data in that variable, but it simply suppress the echo as has a value to get stored in workspace. So just to suppress the echo, we use the semicolon. Actually, semicolon is much more than like a full stop in C. It plays major role here in MATLAB, so be careful using semicolon. And I earlier told that MATLAB extensively consists of use of matrices and arrays, so you must be able to define the matrices and arrays. So just shifting on to that, let's say I define an array Q. While defining any matrices or any array here in MATLAB, you would be using square brackets only. Square bracket, I just write 1, 2, 3, 4. Then square bracket. Enter. Look, an array has been formed. So now we will be analyzing what that comma does to the system. Actually, when I wrote 1 comma, then 1 gave the command to the system that the next element would be stored in the next column. This is what comma is doing here. If I even write comma is not actually necessary here. If I write w as 1 square brackets 1 space 2 space 3 space 4, Again, an array would be defined. Actually, comma is not compulsory, but you should use it because then you will be able to differentiate things. So the comma gives the command to the system that the next element would be stored in the next column. If I define an array as E, we will be using square brackets for defining the matrices and the arrays. I write 1. 1 gets stored at that place. But after that, if I'm putting comma, then this gives command to the system that next element would be put in the next column. 2, 5, 6. Similarly, E has an array. So this is what? This is a row vector. If we are able to form a row vector, then we would be surely able to form the column vector. Now, I earlier said that in the semicolon is much more than a full stop in C. It has various uses here in MATLAB. First to suppress that echo, and now if I want to form a column vector, I wrote D as square brackets 2 semicolon 4 comma semicolon 5 semicolon 6. So it leads to formation of a column vector. So what it indicates, what it tells us the fact that the semicolon gives the command to the system that the next element would be put it in the next row. So 2, the next element is 4, would be put it in the next row. In semicolon, this again gives the command to the system that the next element put it in the next row. That leads to the formation of the column vector. I may define one more column vector for your convenience and for your understanding. It's easy. So if I write 1 semicolon 5 semicolon 4, again a column vector. So the comma, you will be again repeating those things, that the comma gives the command to the system that the next element would be put it in the next column, whereas the semicolon gives the command to the system that the next element would be put it in the next row. And if the MATLAB extensively uses arrays and matrices, so our next focus will be on defining the matrices. Matrices can be defined by using those commas and semicolons. Actually, a mixture of those would be used for defining a matrices. You might have guessed that how we would be able to define, but let's see. Okay, let's define a matrices as, let's say, T. Now, for defining matrices, you have to keep in mind for matrices and array, you must have to use the square brackets. Okay, I wrote 1, 2. So this comma gives the command to the system that the next element would be put it in the next column. And if I now press the semicolon, then this semicolon gives the command to the system that the next element would be put it in the next row. If I write 3 now comma 4, it will lead to matrix of order 2, square matrix of order 2. Similarly, you need not to define only square matrix, you can define matrix of any m cross n order. Like if I define R, if we are defining R, let's say square bracket 2, 3 semicolon 4, 5 semicolon 6, 7. Now it will lead to a matrix of order 3 rows 2 columns 3, 3 cross 2. So with the appropriate usage of semicolon and comma, we are able to define the arrays and the matrices. So now there is one command, that is clear all. What actually this does is it clears all the previously defined variables and arrays, matrices. Everyone will get cleared from the workspace, and the CLC command just clears the screen.